Hey my dears, first of all, click the like button so you don't forget, okay? This helps me a lot, thank you. Alto Goldfield is a first-year student at the Ortigia School of Magic. Despite achieving perfect scores in all other subjects, he has just failed the summoning exam because he cannot form a contract with a familiar. As a result, he won't be able to proceed to his second year. His professor claims that this task isn't difficult. Some students have even formed contracts with rhinoceros beetles. Regardless, Alto must form a contract with any familiar before the faculty meeting the next morning. Lilia Cutelfute, Alto's friend, anxiously runs through the corridor to find out if he passed the test. Alto delivers the bad news, leaving Lilia saddened. Alto worked hard not only to gain admission to the academy, but also to excel in all challenging subjects. However, the one thing he can't do is summon a familiar, jeopardizing all his efforts. Still, he has until the next day to try again. In the library, he contemplates what he could summon. Familiar master compatibility is crucial, and Alto has already attempted various types. Perhaps now he should try something truly strange and unique. Suddenly, a book floats off the shelf above Alto's head and lands on him. He picks up the book, joking that it would be quite a coincidence if it were a familiar summoning book. Later, he realizes that it is indeed such a book. It's ancient, and he has no idea what he might summon. The pages are well preserved, and he can still read the magical circle inscribed within. He draws the circle on the floor and utters the magical invocation words. The circle begins to glow, an unprecedented occurrence. Alto completes the ritual by offering a drop of his own blood. A slender female figure emerges from the billowing black smoke, surprising him. From the billowing smoke emerges a slender female figure with sinuous curves, purple hair, red eyes, horns, and a pointed tail, all of which draw attention, along with her bust. The woman asserts that Alto is the only one who managed to free her. Alto wonders what he has summoned. She appears to be a naked human. Observing how innocent Alto seems, she smiles and asks what he wants her to do, anything at all. Alto is utterly embarrassed. He has likely never seen something so beautiful and seductive before. Stammering, he confesses that he wants her as his familiar. A golden light envelopes them, and multiple beams of light swirl around the two. The woman marvels at how much mana the young lad possesses. A contract forms, leaving marks on both of them. Alto bears a mark on his right hand, while the woman has one on her bust. She acknowledges that Alto is quite strong and accepts their situation. After all, a contract is a contract. With that, she will draw upon her master's mana in return. Swiftly, she approaches Alto and presses her lips to his, siphoning a significant portion of his magical power. She introduces herself as Vermal, a demon. Tracing her hand over her master's chest, she declares her willingness to do anything he asks. In response, Alto requests that she immediately put on some clothes. She playfully calls him a strange little creature. Does he truly prefer her clothed? Unless he's an eccentric wolf in the guise of a timid sheep, she muses. Blushing and incredibly embarrassed, Alto implores her to stop talking about it and just find some clothes. Unfortunately, or perhaps fortunately, none of Alto's clothes fit her. He mentions that there are some of his sister's clothes in the bottom drawer. They should do the trick. Vermal then selects a short and sexy dress, asking her master if it looks good. He blushes even more. Somehow, she appears even sexier than before. Later, Alto explains about the Magic Academy and his problem with summoning familiars. Vermal finds it amusing but acknowledges that it makes sense. After all, Alto's mana is so vast that most familiars wouldn't dare approach him. His magic is like poison to many beings. Nevertheless, Vermal admits that she likes him handsome and potent. Demons are powerful illusory beings that have been feared by humanity in that world for ages. Some are capable of destroying entire nations. Alto asks why she accepted him. After all, she could break the contract if she wanted due to her immense power. Indeed, she could, but Vermal was trapped in that book for quite some time, and Alto was her liberator. Technically, she owes him a debt, and being his familiar is a small price for her freedom. Alto becomes curious. Why was she sealed? Vermal finds his curiosity interesting and explains that it was because she had done many impertinent things. Alto then wonders if he can truly have a demon as his familiar and questions Vermal if she is an evil being. The woman finds his comment amusing and says it's a matter of perspective. Later, Alto visits his academy professor, embarrassed as he introduces his newest familiar. The professor assumes Vermal is just an ordinary human, and despite knowing that Alto is desperate, this situation cannot be accepted. Vermal becomes agitated and slams her hand on the table, revealing the contract mark on her bust. The professor is impressed. Not only is it indeed a familiar mark, but the view is also quite beautiful, right? He becomes confused. Never in history has one person made another their familiar. Vermal asks who cares and instructs him to confirm quickly that Alto has a familiar. Thus, Alto passes the exam and can advance to the second year. The professor questions whether it's truly acceptable for her to remain as a familiar. After all, she would essentially be Alto's servant. She doesn't mind. Right behind them, Lilia seethes with jealousy, wondering who on earth that woman is. During class, Vermal is bold, constantly clinging to her master. This infuriates Lilia, who broke her pen in anger. She stayed up all night worrying about Alto. The professor reprimands the student, advising him to avoid such behavior in class. However, Vermal retorts that many other students hold their familiars, and one of the school's doctrines is to live alongside their familiars. The professor is left speechless and asks Alto to pay attention to the lecture regardless. Vermal gets carried away and implores Alto to give her more of that thick and potent thing within him. This is the last straw for Lilia, who stands up and shouts, demanding to know what they're doing. For yelling in class, the professor sends Lilia out into the corridor. After class ends, Lilia rushes to find her friend, seeking an explanation. Vermal asks who that woman is, and Lilia echoes the same question. At that moment, Alto recalls the previous day when Vermal mentioned disguising herself as a human. Magicians utterly despise demons, but fortunately, common magicians cannot see through her veil. She just needs to hide her tail and horns. Back in the present, Alto responds to his friend, stating that Vermal is an acquaintance. Lilia, consumed by rage, yanks off her tie and hurls it at Alto, challenging him to a duel. If he loses, he must confine his familiar to his room, using her only when necessary. In a duel within the academy, two individuals challenge each other, and the loser must carry out any order given by the winner. Vermal then declares that if Alto wins, Lilia will have to obey one of his commands. Lilia blushes, her mind racing with heated thoughts. The three proceed to an altar, where the battle is broadcast throughout the academy via magical screens. Lilia summons her familiar, Sylphide, a high-level wind spirit. Vermal is impressed that she can summon such a powerful spirit at her age. Lilia boasts that the combination of her powers with her familiar is incredibly potent. While Alto may be strong, without a familiar, he is no match for her. Consumed by jealousy, the girl hurls her magic with all her might. Alto considers dodging, but it's too late. Vermal steps in front of him, urging him to trust her. Vermal takes a direct hit, and Lilia believes victory is hers. However, through the smoke, a silhouette remains standing. Vermal hasn't suffered a scratch. Now it's her turn to attack. Concentrating immense power, she launches a deadly force at Lilia, who gasps erotically. Lilia loses the duel and must now obey her opponent's command. Excited yet embarrassed, she complies when Alto asks her and Vermal to be friends. Duel agreements cannot be broken. They shake hands, with Lilia addressing Vermal as Senora. Vermal finds this amusing, especially after Lilia's defeat. A sense of enmity lingers between them. Later, at Alto's home, he implores his familiar not to cause further trouble. Vermal rebuffs him, claiming no responsibility, and hints that the girl is smitten with him. But Alto says it's not possible. Lilia is a childhood friend, and she's always angry with him for strange reasons, but she's a good friend. At that moment, Vermal claims that she worked hard today and deserves a treat. She approaches Alto, requesting his mana through a kiss. Afterward, Alto asks why she needs to drain mana. Vermal explains that she was sealed for centuries, leaving her weak. Without Alto, she wouldn't even be able to maintain a human form. The boy feels grateful. He's gaining a lot for a low price. However, his familiar responds that having a demon as a familiar is entirely unfeasible for regular magicians. They'd either explode from within or have their mana completely drained. In Alto's case, he possesses what's necessary for the contract. Vermal also mentions other ways to drain mana besides the kiss and asks if he'd like to try while she caresses his body. Alto thinks the kiss is just fine. Thank you for watching, my dear. Press the like button and subscribe to continue. See you next time. The next day, Alto and his hot demon return to class while he asks her to try not to draw too much attention. Everyone devours her with their eyes, but a dragon-type familiar catches everyone's attention. Vermal agrees not to overdo anything, so she flicks the dragon, sending it flying like Team Rocket. Later, an instructor congratulates everyone while Alto complains about his partner drawing too much attention with that little blow. But it's actually something else that grabs the other students' attention. Big melons.
Oh, big.
No.
It's so big.
During the class, the professor explains the seals that lock demons and how it's impossible for them to break free, but Lilia just wants Vermal to stay away from her crush. After class, Lilia and Vermal fight over Alto again, but are interrupted by a crybaby and his brown-haired brother, demanding an explanation for the dragon that was thrown away by them earlier. But Vermal and Alto had already forgotten about that. Vermal starts acting like a victim while Alto comes from behind and uses his crystal magic on them. But the veteran reveals his familiar, a very powerful red dinosaur. The veteran thinks Vermal is hot, but wants to see her regret what she did. Alto doesn't like that at all. Vermal then hugs him from behind and gives him some of the mana she had sucked before, giving Alto a boost that allows him to defeat the dinosaur with another advanced crystal magic. After the confusion, Vermal thinks school is really a drag, wondering if this will help Alto get what he wants. If he wants to be rich, she can do that easily. Alto doesn't want her to do anything illegal, but what he really wants is to become an incredible mage. The Academy mages are divided into bronze, silver, and gold. It's already very difficult to reach the bronze level, and Alto wants to be better than the gold level, an elite level. A special level given to the highest achiever of the gold level. Vermal then promises to fulfill her master's dream while suffocating him in her breasts. She then takes off her dress. Yes, she simply takes her dress because she wants a little milk now.
Yeah, boy. So big.
Saying she needs more mana, so Alto better be prepared because the night will be hot. The next day, Vermal is radiant after the wonderful night she had. Marx Parston shows up, an old friend of Alto and Lilia, accompanied by Cheryl. Marx considers himself Alto's rival, but Vermal thinks he's just an idiot. The professor sees them there and says that the Academy president wants to see them. Alto, Lilia, and Cheryl are summoned to compete for the student representative position. For that, one of them needs to complete a challenge to get the fairy flower by 6 p.m. There is only one such flower at the moment, and after some time, Alto and Lilia find it, but it's being guarded by a Cerberus. Lilia then shows that she has an invisibility potion, to which Alto wonders why she has that item stored. She wanted to spy on Alto while he was getting excited, but ends up fumbling with her words. The Cerberus has a great sense of smell, but it has a cold today. Lilia then drinks the potion, but her clothes do not turn invisible. She had forgotten about that and starts to take off her clothes. It's when she realizes she is literally stripping in front of Alto. Well, she is invisible, so it's not a problem, right? Even so, she still dies of embarrassment. It's then that Alto realizes he was almost letting her win the contest. He asks what new power Vermal gave him the previous day, but she had only amplified the mana he had given her before. That Cerberus can be easily defeated, but before that, Vermal wants to savor her master a little more. She then grabs him and throws him to the ground, thoroughly enjoying his body and showing off her big melons.
Wow!
All that for a kiss, Vermal? Meanwhile, Lilia tries to pass by the dog, but it seems one of the heads wasn't sick and senses her smell. Alto attacks at the crucial moment, telling Lilia to go on. Vermal then apologizes before launching a powerful crushing blow that puts the dog to sleep. She is impressed to see that Alto managed to fight even after she had sucked him dry.
Nice.
After that, Lilia brings the flower to Alto since she doesn't consider herself to have won. Her potion wears off at the last moment, and Alto sees everything she has to offer.
Wow!
Unfortunately, the flower flies away and lands in Cheryl's hands, who did absolutely nothing. Vermal delights in an ice cream. It didn't exist in her time, so she's impressed. Our dear demon is hundreds of years old, and Alto is curious to know more about his sugar mommy. But a bunch of dragons flying overhead catches their attention. All are piloted by Dragon Knights, a club with people who have dragon familiars. While walking, Vermal offers her ice cream to Alto, who even gets embarrassed, despite having sucked her tongue many times. After that, the 5 friends discuss the student council members who achieved gold level at the academy. The most famous of them is Chris, the captain of the Dragon Club, whom Marx finds completely incredible. This catches Alto's attention, who wants to become someone like them, but suddenly he is smothered by large airbags.
So
Nice.
Vermal is sure that her master's wish is easy for him. While Lilia is dying of jealousy in the locker room, Vermal curiously examines her master's piece. He scolds her because he asked her to wait outside, but she couldn't change there. Lilia then appears, saying she should have gone to the girls' locker room and not the boys', and that she also wanted to spy on Alto while he was changing. At that moment, the student council walks by the corridor while being admired by everyone. The 5 are gold level, and one of them is intrigued by Vermal. During the bath, Alto thinks the student council is really amazing, and even Vermal agrees with him. He is startled to see her in her natural state, taking a bath with him completely off guard. And oh my god, Vermal is stunned to see how well-built Alto's sword is. Guys, isn't this going too far? They even end up touching each other, and Vermal states that they should do this because she gives him strength, then asks Alto to use her as he wishes. Later, elsewhere, we see Chris, the captain of the Dragon Knights, facing veteran Rex who was defeated by Alto earlier. She learns that Alto has a human woman as a familiar and soon becomes interested in him. Chris crushes Rex, calling him weak and humiliating him as trash for losing to a freshman, thus denying his request to join the Dragon Knights. Rex sees that Lilia was right about the Dragon Knights. They're just a bunch of arrogant and despicable bastards. Later, Rex is hospitalized and Alto finds out about it and visits him. Rex says he ended up like this because of a certain bitch, but none of this is Alto's fault, so he doesn't need to worry. Alto learns from Rex's brother that the bitch who left him like this was the infamous Chris, so he challenges her to a duel. When they arrive, Chris talks a lot of crap and then summons her dragon familiar. Alto then summons Vermal and they kiss. The golden mana that comes out of the two catches Chris's attention. The duel begins. Alto uses his crystal magic, which is easily repelled by Chris, who uses fire magic. Vermal defends and says she shouldn't use her full power against a freshman, but Chris says a dragon never uses all its power for small prey. The two continue exchanging blows while Chris acts like an impulsive idiot, trying to humiliate Alto. Vermal amplifies mana for her master, and they perform a double attack. Chris couldn't defend against it, so she jumped straight to her dragon, boasting about how dragons are superior because they can fly. Haha, right? Vermal defends and withstands several of Chris's flaming attacks, transferring mana to Alto again. This time, they come up with a plan. Alto uses a vast amount of mana, impressing Chris. Summoning a large crystal pillar, Chris scoffs, saying the same attack won't work twice, and destroys the pillar. However, Alto and Vermal disappear from the arena and reappear behind her, using the crystal shards to reach her. Alto corners Chris with a sharp crystal shard, winning the battle. After the battle, Alto is praised by sycophantic girls, while Lilia knows those sluts are worthless. Alto's professor congratulates him, but warns that he can't challenge just anyone without a valid reason, and Alto knows this well. As punishment, Chris has to do community service for the rest of her life. Rex finds this great. He's healed from his wounds and feels a bit sorry for Chris, so he helps her a little, despite her earlier nastiness. She even blushes. Later, while sleeping, Vermal takes the opportunity to give Alto a French kiss, startling him with something pleasant entering his mouth. He complains she can't do that while he's asleep and tells her to get dressed. Vermal, on the other hand, teases him, asking if he doesn't like her kisses. A flustered Alto says kisses should be for someone he loves. Vermal thinks that's great because she's completely in love with Alto. What a hot couple. The next day, Alto says Vermal doesn't know when to stop and should have said she wanted something else too. She's radiant. When he remembers Vermal saying she loved him, he wonders if that can really happen. Can a demon fall in love with a human? Alto's professor is intrigued by this question. Demons have been very influential in the history of magic, but there's no known true romance between them, apart from the interest of incubi and succubi. In the end, a succubus can fall in love with a human, but because of his mana. This disheartens Alto a bit. Later at lunch, Vermal notices her master is acting strange. He hasn't touched his food. He goes straight to the point and asks if she's only there because of his mana. Vermal understands everything and hugs him, then kisses him. He complains she's doing it again, but realizes she didn't touch his mana this time. Vermal repeats that she should only kiss someone she loves. She then complains he's giving her a lot of work, as he can also kiss her whenever he wants. The next day, they are both more radiant than ever. Alto meets his former professor, Sensei Obsidian, and apologizes for the strange questions the other day. The professor wishes Alto good luck in love, but warns him to always be careful, as women, succubi or not, have a little demon inside them. Yes, I can confirm that, haha. Later, one of Obsidian's students, who is madly in love with him, is called by him. They hug, but the professor seems to have other plans as he shows a strange substance. After that, the student is found frozen in one of the academy's rooms. The rumor spreads among the students and reaches the council's ears. Shinuji and his colleague Jessica discuss this, and it's already the fourth case of a frozen student. A thick wall of ice covered the door where the victim was, and coincidentally, this same student uses ice magic. Despite this type of magic is ineffective on women. Later, Alto measures the height of his sugar mommy for a surprise report on the student's familiars. He is perplexed to describe a demon, but Vermal seems very interested in seeing Alto analyzing her body. As expected, Vermal soon starts undressing so Alto could better analyze certain parts. He is, of course, very embarrassed, but Vermal is active and tells him to hold her melons to feel their full size. While Vermal is having fun, Lilia spies on her crush's house with Cheryl. She gets furious with the situation and soon comes up with a plan to save Alto. Curiously, she has a copy of Alto's room key and another invisibility potion. She takes off her clothes and tells Cheryl to wait. Alto measures Vermal's melons while she asks him to squeeze them hard. He needs to describe her as human because demons are poorly regarded by everyone at the academy. Lilia infiltrates the male dormitory and is about to discover that Vermal is actually a demon. But when she finally reaches Alto's room, he asks Vermal to remove her horns so he can measure her head normally. Lilia watches them from in front of the bookshelf, and at that moment, Alto needs one of the books there. He almost touches and kisses Lilia, and she is completely perplexed and embarrassed. It was the wrong book, so when he goes to find the right one, it's at the level of Lilia's melons, and he's about to touch her company. Alto finds the book, but it seems his finger also found something else on Lilia's body, as she gets very excited. After this confusion, Vermal says Alto is one step closer to his goal because he defeated Chris, who is gold level. However, he felt Chris was holding back in the duel and ended up being caught by surprise in the end. If she had gone all out, Alto would certainly lose. Thus, Alto says in the report that Vermal likes sweets, but before they go shopping, she adds Alto's name in the same section. Cute. Elsewhere, Chris is violently defeated along with her dragon. We see Rex with a new bizarre familiar, completely consumed by rage.